Perfect. So let's kick things off. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today and dedicating some time to learn more about how you can build rich digital twins of your existing assets. A few quick administrative points before we get started. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A pane at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen. And these will be answered at the end of the presentation during a Q&A session. We will also provide a copy of today's webinar recording after the webinar, and this will be sent out to all registrants. And feel free to forward this to your colleagues inside your organization who might not be able to make it with us today. So my name is Alex Florent, Senior Client Executive at VEERUM. We are a Calgary headquartered software company with operations all around the world, and I'm very excited to be doing this with our partners ReVisionz today. I know we've got a few clients and some and other industrial oil and gas owner operators, utility operators, and mining operators on the line. And you've likely met VEERUM and ReVisionz over the years, and may know VEERUM as really a company that optimizes capital projects and creates a digital thread into operations and maintenance. Over the past 4 years, I've talked to a lot of you, different oil and gas, mining, chemicals, and utilities companies. And one problem that has always emerged is really the brownfield content problem. How do we digitize and modernize our legacy assets, which make up the majority of capital assets in the world? We recognize that data is the foundation to any digital transformation initiative, so we've partnered with ReVisionz to provide a best-in-class solution to building rich digital twins of your existing assets. I'm very excited to be doing this today, and I'll pass it off to Kelly to kick things off and talk about today's agenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Sir Alex. I appreciate it. I'll give you a little brief introduction of ReVisionz a little bit further into the presentation, but I'd like to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Kelly Kinghorn. I've been with ReVisionz for close to 10 years now. Prior to that, came out of the engineering EPC world. My passion is about asset and process safety information and working with owner operators to help improve the way owner operators can manage that information over the life cycle of their assets and facilities through capital projects, all through information handover into operations and maintenance. So happy to be here with Alex, and I'm really excited. So again, would just like to welcome everybody, and thanks for taking time to participate in today's webinar. So just a quick one on behalf of ReVisionz and me personally. Again, really excited to be here with Alex and the VEERUM team. Truly believe what you're going to see today will drive significant value to your operations and projects team, helping overcome, as Alex mentioned, those challenges with brownfield assets and how to create a digital twin of those those facilities. In the webinar, we're going to show you how to build that rich digital twin of those assets. But through this, we're going to show you how you can add some intelligence to that laser scan. As we've all seen, laser scans are great. They're a lot more cost effective. But just the raw laser scan has some limitations as to how to integrate that without adding some level of intelligence. So Alex is going to show you how we go about that. And then from ReVisionz perspective, how can we break down that information and those silos to allow people to find that information a lot easier and a lot quicker by using that digital twin and that reality model. Obviously providing those people that ability to access their existing data with new context and new insights. Ultimately, the driver here is to reduce that value leakage and optimize those safety measures that's in place. So finally, after the demo, we'll walk you through how ReVisionz and VEERUM are delivering kind of that solution, but not as a big bang approach, more as a incremental business capabilities driving incremental business value, not within months or in quarters and so forth, but in weeks. We will show you how we're going to deliver that as the last slide as we wrap up prior to the question and answer that Alex mentioned. And then just leveraging the VEERUM technology platform, ReVisionz services, I think we're able to deliver that incremental value really in a quarter of the time compared to the kind of that traditional approach. So with all that being said, are we ready to digitally transform our operations today? And I assume without a lot of responses, I think we are. So let's go to the next one.
I'm ready, Kelly.
All right. So a problem statement, Alex kind of touched on it briefly, but really the problem statement with brownfield assets is really a lot of information that typically exists in brownfield. It's scattered across silos and business systems. Adding to this, the accuracy and completeness of that data information. Many companies don't have 3D models. If they do, those models don't really reflect that as is plant, that physical plant. And that 2D CAD and other legacy asset and process safety information, be it line lists and data sheets, master data, operating data, they have various degrees of completeness, which again may not reflect that actually physical plant. So in addition to that, just through the work that we've done with many clients, we've shown a lot of our experience has shown that over 70% of plants are missing between 30 to 50% of their asset and process safety information. It may be incomplete, inconsistent, or out of date. But as we kind of explore that further, most of that information does exist. It's just not in a way that's accessible and consumable to those people. So a lot of the things that we hear of statements from the end users, like the operations people, is they have to go into more than 7 systems to find information to assemble a work package, as an example. And when they spend all that time, they spend more time validating and walking down that information. So ultimately, our studies have shown that planners, as an example, spend nearly 50% of their time looking for information. I think that kind of speaks to some of the items that you see within the slide here around operations being frustrated. They can't find it. They can't trust it. Do they have the right version of that P&ID, as an example? Maybe that P&ID exists in multiple systems. And on the capital project side, when they're trying to use that information for their design purposes or further project work, the first question they ask is this real? Does this really exist out in site? And at the end of the day, they fly people to site, they travel to site, they have walked down information in order to make sure it's correct. So ultimately, all of these inefficiencies with brownfield asset, brownfield information, it contributes to that value leakage, right? That ineffective decision-making, increased number of people on site, that lost productivity time, and increased safety risk, and really just cost to the projects and operations. So if you can relate to this, you're not alone. I think a lot of owner-operators are facing the same, but the ability to access accurate and complete information will overcome those challenges and ultimately contribute to reducing that value leakage and so forth. So I think the one thing to impress upon people here is the ability to maximize your technology investment with a technology like VEERUM is to ensure that you have access to accessible and trustworthy data so that you can actually maximize that technology investment. We're going to see that through the course of the conversation today. So with that being said, let's go to the next one there, Alex. So how is ReVisionz and VEERUM working together? Just kind of starting on the right-hand side a little bit here in a second, but really ReVisionz and VEERUM have partnered to kind of improve that operational safety and remote site access by building that rich digital twin of the legacy asset. So on the right-hand side, VEERUM's asset information visualization platform provides an intuitive solution to ingest that reality capture, be it laser scans, drone data, photos of that existing facility, and the ability to integrate that model and that information with your internal business systems, be it SAP, OSI Pi, document management systems, CAD files, and so forth, but providing that new insight and context and how you can see your existing data. On the left-hand side, from a ReVisionz perspective, we're bringing the asset and data lifecycle services to the table that provides a mean to extract, normalize information, analyze it, enrich it, and establish those information relationships in a structured manner that feeds into that VEERUM platform, ultimately breaking down those information silos, making it easier for people to find information. So as we go through this, we're kind of joining forces to bring together the technology of the VEERUM platform, married with the ReVisionz asset and process safety information domain expertise. These folks at ReVisionz, we really do understand kind of that technical understanding of asset and process safety information over the life cycle and how it all reacts and behaves within that environment in order to provide it to that VEERUM solution. So again, it's important to understand that in context visualization and the integration of business systems is really dependent on how to integrate and how to actually the dependency of those relationships and information of your existing data. So those tags to documents as an example. So I guess with that, Alex, I just kind of turn it over to you. Did you want to add anything else to the flavor of this or color of it.
Sure, thanks, Kelly. And I completely agree. I think, you know, when we look at the state of current asset information within our client base, within the assets that we work in, it varies drastically from, you know, company to company, and more importantly, asset to asset. And I think really what I want to, you know, stress here or bring home is really that, you know, you can get started right away. You know, you already have some sort of equipment tag list that you're using to manage, you know, this equipment in the field, to maintain your asset. And, you know, really we can start today in connecting that information. And then when it comes to building all of those tag to document relationships, those tag to system relationships, you know, it really becomes, you know, a journey where every day we're just improving the quality and the accessibility of this information. So, you know, I guess the final point is, you know, you can start today, whether it's connecting, you know, SharePoint, you know, EWP packages to tie-in points to support a turnaround, or connecting, you know, a flange management system or SAP. You know, you can start right away, and then we can start building out those relationships over time to really create that fully integrated digital twin.
Right on, right on. Yeah, great. Thanks, Alex. So just a couple more slides here, and then Alex is going to give a demonstration, and then we'll finish up with that delivery approach as we've mentioned earlier. But just wanted to talk about creating that rich digital twin. You know, in a lot of cases, when implementing new technologies, a lot of companies are conscious of that change to people in their organizations, be it business process change, training to people, their systems or infrastructure, and so forth. So, and also in some cases, companies fear, you know, do I have to move or migrate my data to support this new system, right? And so I just kind of threw in an image on the left-hand side, but I kind of had a good laugh when I saw the cartoon, and the cartoon saying here that, you know, the one fella says, I handled our own data migration successfully. I just don't know where I migrated that data to. So again, I think we've all been part of data migrations. Some experience is good, some maybe not so good. The intent of this solution approach is to focus on leveraging your existing digital information or digital investments on your current information repositories, minimizing that change to end users, you know, avoiding that data migration. With that being said, the ability to unlock the value of your information still requires some work in order to kind of bring it all together and present it back into that VEERUM platform. So there is an element of having to go through and mine and rationalize that existing data. So, you know, whereabouts does that existing data exist? How to extract it? How to associate and rationalize those tags across business systems, as they may be described slightly different. In some cases, there may be a need to enrich some of that information. Some of the sources may need additional metadata, or we need to do more with those tag relationships. And maybe there's some gaps in your data we need to fix in order to kind of maximize that investment. And we also need to identify what's that system of record. In a lot of cases, a P&ID may reside in a couple locations for whatever reason that might be. What is that system of record? What's the latest version of that? What's the as-built version, that single source of truth? And then around that is, we need to put that management of change to keep that information current and up to date in those systems of record that we've identified. And also, let's not forget, if there is some cleanup, avoid eating the elephant. Look at just focusing on that critical asset and process safety information, things that are directly benefiting your operations people and ensuring regulatory compliance. So, you know, just narrow the focus and don't eat the elephant. On the right-hand side of this screen, just a quick little overview. So ReVisionz, over 20 years experience working with owner operators. We are specialists in the asset and process safety information management. We do help clients to achieve that operational excellence, improve safety, reduce value leakage, improve regulatory compliance, help them through their digital transformation initiatives and so forth. So as part of those services, really there's 4 elements that we drive around. One is around strategy and consulting services, vision, strategy, roadmap, business case, planning, and so forth, front end type work. Technology solutions services, where that's the actual implementation, design, implementation, configuration, sustainment of those systems, be it engineering data warehouses, engineering design systems, document management systems, and so forth. coupled with that is the change enablement, the people change, the training to ensure that when we implement those, it actually can be absorbed within the organization. And lastly, the data and information lifecycle services around a lot of the things we're talking about here around gathering that data, extracting it, measuring the data, the KPIs and quality of that information, and presenting it to platforms such as VEERUM. With that being said, in the next slide, and prior to Alex demonstrating, I'll just kind of show you a high-level overview of ReVisionz approach of how we're using our templates and processes and tools to extract that into a structured way. So in that, this slide here kind of shows you that. And again, as we mentioned earlier, that brownfield and existing data is typically locked up into documents or siloed systems. So ultimately, it does put a value ceiling on that technology investment. So if you're looking at this, as we kind of walk through this, on the left-hand side, you kind of see the sources, be it structured or unstructured sources. And again, like I said earlier, it's not about moving that information. It's about leveraging where that information exists. In the middle, the data and information lifecycle services that's shown right in the middle, ReVisionz is bringing to that table, the tools around AI, ML to be able to extract information, a rules-based engine to enrich that information, again, with those kind of templates and processes and tools that ultimately generates a rich data file that's then ingested into that VEERUM solution on the right-hand side here, right? That rich data file would include, tags, metadata, source system locations, relationships to enable that integration. What's shown in the gray box here is just realizing through that process is we do need to understand kind of that information architecture. Where does information reside? What's that system of record, as I mentioned earlier? As well as if there is some data cleanup, there may be some of that through that process as well. But ultimately, as Alex is saying, it is to establish a master tag list. It's to normalize those tags across systems. Not to say we're renaming tags at all. It's just more so about what is that tag described in system A versus system B, and how do we associate and make them like, so that we can integrate that. And ultimately, like I say, integrate that information into the system. So the intent here is to minimize manual effort, is to automate as much of that as possible through that process. So unlocking the power of information using this approach will maximize your technology investment and ultimately reduce your value leakage, because people can get to the information that they need quickly with new context. So with that being said, let's see what this tool is, what this solution is. Let me pass it over to Alex and let him demonstrate how he's bringing all this great stuff together. Alex.
I think now we've learned a little bit about how we can, aggregate data from different systems, elevate that information, use different AI machine learning tools to extract the metadata, the tags, out of these documents. And now it becomes a question of how do we actually connect, all of that rich information, which typically lives within, document management or enterprise asset management or real-time operating systems. How do we connect that information to a visual model of the plant? So here, I'll just escape my screen. I want to show a little bit now. Okay, we've extracted all of this information, from your document. We ingest your tag list. How do we go about matching all of those tags to related assets or objects within the digital twin? So here, what I want to show here, this is a laser scan that was performed of a water treatment plant, and it's colorized. You're able to, really visualize that asset to a high level of detail. And this particular data capture was actually performed using a mobile mapping device. So these kinds of devices, this entire site probably took about 30 minutes to scan. It can be scanned by non-survey subject matter experts. So there's really been some great advancements in reality capture technology to support, all of these business objectives. So here, what I'll do here is, start looking at what can we ingest. And so, really the output from, that ReVisionz service is a master tag list. Here are all of the equipment pieces that we have, for this particular asset. And then what I can do is actually search by equipment type. So let's say as a maintenance planner or an operator, I specialize in mechanical equipment. I want to find all the information related to pumps. So here I've just created a search, and now I can see all of the pump tags that show up within this model. And there's 17 pumps related to this GU1, glycol unit 1 work scope. Over here, I'll zoom into some of these pumps, and we can see that there's pumps here. It's a reality scan. Now what we want to do is start matching each of these tags and these objects to the related locations within the virtual model, really advancing that building information model. So I can click on any of these tags and then get all of the related metadata that comes from SAP or your tag list or your enterprise asset management system, really make that truly accessible and easy to understand for the team. Typically, how we envision this with our clients and what we've been doing is crowdsourcing all of this information, from your operators and maintenance planners who know that this is pump, 201, this is 202, this is 203. But how can you verify that information, or how can you even get, non-subject matter experts of the plant, such as myself, to actually start matching these tags? So here, as we generate scans, we also generate 360 photos field. So I'll just click on one of these scan positions, and we'll be able to access the 360 image from that location. Looking at these pumps, I can see that the pump on the left is pump 201A, the pump on the right is pump 201B. So I've just got that context. I'll clear these panoramas and go back to our tag list and really get back to those, to that description, pull up our pumps, and we said 201A on the left and 201B on the right. So we'll find those tags. Again, we can search for these numbers, make it really easy. But here's 201A. We simply select that object, confirm that's where we want to place it, place the object, and we've now connected 201A. I now want to connect 201B. So here I'll go back to the list, find 201B, select that object and place it. Update these dimensions. We can ingest the dimensions of those equipment tags from your system of record. SAP often has dimensions, so we can pre-populate each of those, and again, place that onto the scene. Similarly, any other tag or component can easily be matched to a unique geolocation within the virtual model using that exact same workflow. So really what I wanted to show here is, we just matched two tags. I can match a third one here. So I know that beside, 201A and 201B is, 202B. I simply select that object, place it. And again, what we're really targeting is, less than 3 seconds per tag or per object, and really enable anyone within your organization to take the knowledge that's in their head, knowledge as to which pump is which, and really codify that and build that into the virtual model so it's accessible to everyone, and so that it's fully integrated with your enterprise asset management systems. The second thing we can do is create sub-hierarchies. So what we can do is create a hierarchy where people, maintenance planners, operators would match equipment tags to related assets or pieces of equipment within the virtual model, and have some sort of QA/QC process to verify that these have all been matched to the right location, and then publish that to a master model, which is accessible to the whole team, that is trusted, verified, and validated at scale. So let's fast forward a little bit and see, what does this look like for, the same plant once all tags are matched. So same plant here, but in this particular work scope, all of the tags have already been matched. So what I'm going to do here is, start looking for information. So what I want to find, I'm a maintenance planner. I'm about to go out to site. I want to find a particular work order. So I'm looking for work order 276-2940, and I've just found that work order, and that work order is matched to a tag. So I'll click on that particular tag, and you can see that the work order actually relates to this particular compressor. And you can see all of the data from document management, We can go to our document management system, so we can create hyperlinks with your systems of record, get all the PDF documents, PNIDs that may exist. This could be open text, UDocs, whatever, SharePoint, whatever system you may use. And then similarly, pull all of the data from your SAP equipment list, link back to SAP, pull all of your work orders from SAP plant maintenance, link back to those work orders, and then you can see all of that particular information. If I wanted to learn a little bit more about all of the surrounding equipment inside the model, I can simply click on any of these pieces of equipment, and I can get the exact same information related to equipment, document management, work orders, or any other information that has been connected in relation to that tag. So going back to the work order maintenance planner use case, I need to go execute this work order, which is related to operational cleaning that is required of this particular compressor. So now I can actually do all of my planning virtually without actually going on site, and I can really navigate this entire plant from the comfort and convenience of the office or the home office, and I can things. As an example, I can start measuring for clearances. So maybe I need to plan for mobile equipment access requirements, and I want to make sure that I've got over 2.5 meters of clearance to bring in particular equipment. Here between this small bore piping and conduit and the ground, we've got about 2.8 meters. We've got some sort of two structural beams over here that are about 2.4 meters apart. Again, we can do similar sort of, clearance measurements and the likes, the type of stuff that maintenance planners would typically do in the field. We're really, providing the tools to really make that information accessible to people from a remote location. The last thing I want to impress upon is that, as we're matching tags to a unique geolocation, really what we're doing is we're giving location intelligence to that information. So now every tag has a related XYZ coordinate that lives within the real world. And what we can do is we can actually export the XYZ location back to SAP to create a two-way integration. So I know that GU1 C040 compressor 0401 lives. I can export those Y coordinates, include them in SAP, and create a two-way integration. So I can be in SAP, go to this equipment, and create me to this exact location. So this would look, this shared view. I'll copy a short URL for this particular location. This can be scripted to be, fully to automate the embedding of that URL into your environment. So I'll just go to a new screen. I'll enter that URL, and you'll see we'll reload a screen, bring you to the VEERUM platform, and bring you to the exact geolocation within the model in which that tag exists. So I hope that sort of came through clear through the internet connection. All of these tags that you have in SAP can now, or all of this equipment list can now have a new key value pair that allows you to access that unique location within that laser scan or that visual model, so that as I'm planning out my work, I can go to a digital twin of my site, view exactly where that compressor is in the context of the rest of the plant, and really help optimize those workflows. So I know we're coming up on about 30 minutes of time, and I wanted to leave 5 minutes for a little bit of discussion on delivery and 10 minutes for Q&A. So maybe I'll just go right back to our final slide, but feel free to add any questions and answers in the window pane, and we'll make sure to address them in 5 minutes after speaking a little bit about delivery. So delivering incremental business value. You've seen, how we can, extract data out of documents, create that master tag list, how we can match all of those equipment tags to a reality scan of our site, how we can create those two-way integrations with all of your different systems of record. So how do you get there, and how do we get there within quarter time to value? And it really starts with asset visualization. And this comes down to aggregating all of your existing visual data, whether it's reality scans, laser scans, drone imagery, 360 photos. Virtually every company I've worked with has some level of scans inside their enterprise, but typically all of those data sets are captured for one purpose and one purpose only, and they live on someone's hard drive, in their desk, and it's not really accessible to the rest of the enterprise. So what we're doing is we're aggregating your existing data, providing new context to that information, and then democratizing access so that it provides, greater business value to your organization. It's worth noting as well that this space is evolving, very quickly. Data capture is becoming a commodity. We're now working with clients, introducing mobile mapping unit devices where they can capture all of this data themselves without the need for survey subject matter expertise. And even if you look at the new, iPhone 12 or the iPad Pro, they now come with built-in LiDAR, really democratizing access to data capture. And I'm not suggesting you should digitize your whole plant with an iPhone 12, but really, that's where, this space, this data capture space is evolving to. It's in mobile devices, really enabling anyone in the field to capture data. And now what we want to do is also enable anyone in the field to also have access to data. So, really you can envision, once you've created this, visual model, how does that help you with asset health surveillance? How does that help you with, remote maintenance planning, reducing the number of walk downs and site visits that are required for your maintenance planners to plan out work packages? How does this help you manage your supply chain, your OEM vendors, your engineering contractors, your construction companies, your consultants, by enabling a greater level of communication within that supply chain? And then, of course, training, site orientation, training new onboards to the organization. And the last thing I want to sort of leave you with is really advanced visualizations, advanced and all this that are enabled by building this digital model. Anyone working on, AR, VR kind of capabilities, AI, ML capabilities are going to tell you data is the foundation required to actually advance all of those future integrated digital twin capabilities. And really what we're doing, together, VEERUM and ReVisionz, is building out that data model to support your digital transformation objectives. So with that, Kelly, I'll pass it over to you to wrap things up and bring us home.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. That's awesome. Really appreciate that. It was exciting to see the demo and see how it's all brought together. Yeah, not to reiterate anything you really said, that just to complement and maybe to answer one of the questions in parallel here. I know Murray had a question I'll answer as I go through. They said, you can't do everything at once. Which side of the spectrum would I start on developing the digital twin, from a VEERUM perspective or ReVisionz, or both together? And I think just as part of this screen here and this slide, it's really about doing that together, right? It's really starting on day one. VEERUM bringing that, consuming the laser scans and that reality scan immediately and getting that in place. But at the same time, we'll be developing and extracting and data mining and assessing the data, understanding where that data resides as part of that information architecture, and using our AI ML tools to extract that master tag list. So it's a parallel effort here. It's not one before the other. And both of those seamlessly then drive into the middle, where we have this intelligent, the intelligent reality model, as Alex kind of showed, those objects within that laser scan, that geo-tagging area. And again, that can be done by people within your organization, or through services that ReVisionz has. We can help geotag all of those objects within the model just by taking your as-built P&IDs and virtually walking that down and creating that rich, intelligent model for you. So, we can do those services offshore at kind of a high volume, high quality, and quick delivery type stuff. And then ultimately on the right-hand side, that fully integrated digital twin is really about that enriched data set of tag to doc relationships and that normalization of tags across your system so that you can do that integration. And you saw pieces of that today within Alex's demonstration, where even as you saw the little the glyph and tooltip that came out that showed the rolling and changing numbers, that was actually linked right up to OSI Pi as an example. So again, that was tag to tag relationships versus the information within the document management system. So that integrated digital twin is actually a quick delivery time, and it's done in parallel. So ultimately it's delivering that, accelerating that business value delivery with incremental capabilities. So I think that would be the only thing I'd kind of add to that, and I guess open it up, if you're all right with that, Alex, to address any questions that might come in. And hopefully, Murray, I answered your question okay there.
For sure. Thanks, Kelly. So I'm looking through the Q&A pane, and I'll answer a few of these live. So if I look at the first question that came up from Michael, does the generation of work orders start with the model or just show up in the model? So great question. Thank you, Michael. I want to be clear. What we do is we're a data aggregator with your systems of record. So all of your work orders are managed through your computerized maintenance management system. So typically SAP Plant Maintenance, Maximo, that's where work orders are created, that's where they're managed, and that's where they're closed out. Really, we're building a direct API with SAP Plant Maintenance and with Maximo, so that whenever in your system of record, it's also updated into the VEERUM platform. So really the generation of work orders remains within your computerized maintenance management system. And maybe I'll go back to Kelly's earlier point about data migration. It's not like we're migrating all of your CMMS data from SAP PM to this new VEERUM cloud. We're leveraging what you already have, the investments you've already made, what people are already familiar with, so that there's not this big, sort of change management hurdle. And what we're doing is we're now providing 3D visual context to all of that information to really help enable, remote work, safer work, and really a better understanding of what actually needs to be done in the field. So hopefully that answers your question, Michael. And yeah, would be happy to follow up afterwards to go into a little bit more detail.
One quick one here from Michael, just asking about it. Will they get a copy of this deck? And the quick answer is, yeah, we're going to be sending this out and provide links to people that participated today. So the answer is yes there. The other question around, I guess, any other ones? I guess Michael also had another one, define what's quick. I guess, quite honestly, Michael, when we look at what's quick, I think what you see on this slide is kind of demonstrating how quick we can move. But I think there's a lot of variables to how that actually works in the context of how many source systems, what's the shape of your data, how much of that model are we going to actually add some object intelligence? Is it only your maintainable assets? Is it all assets? But so a little bit of vary. So I think it's something where probably have to have further conversation with yourselves and others to see and understand what your current situation is. But again, I think what you see on the screen here is very palatable in a lot of regards for smaller type assets. So.
For sure. I've got a question here from John Rovers. As a maintenance planner, would it be possible to run through certain maintenance routines and visualize the individual items to work on? So thank you for the question, John. So yes, as a maintenance planner, what we're able to do is create, different geolocated animations, and we call them annotations, to actually do some event sequencing. So you can say, the first thing we're going to do is, turn off this valve, and then we're going to, remove this particular, piece of piping or these bolts on this flange joint. So you can work through, a simulated environment. And the same way I showed a shared view on how we could, create unique links to unique geolocations within the virtual model, you can actually connect those to your procedures. So you can have your procedures showing steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, along with all of your training and documentation, which can be connected to the model, and actually connect those to a unique location, and then simply click, here's procedure 1, here's procedure 2, here's procedure 3, here's procedure 4, and then actually do that sort of event sequencing within the virtual model, based on those locations. So that is definitely a capability. It's really, up to the users to, create those procedures and to connect them to the virtual model. But all those capabilities are there, for maintenance planners.
Right on. Yeah, another question here. There's a few there around navigation and so forth. Alex, I'll let you table some of those. Murray had another one here, just saying, what personally do you believe is a benefit from the integrated digital twin and the asset visualization? I think, as Alex said, this is kind of this area is just growing, and the ability to bring, in the case of Brownfield and our legacy assets, the reality capture into an in context or visualization platform. Ultimately, there's many benefits, I think, Murray, and all, but I think if we could say that, bringing it all into one visual view of some in context visualization to allow those operations people to learn an easy platform to navigate and find information. Again, as Alex said, it's not about moving information, but get them to that information without them having to go through 7 systems, right? And again, through this whole process, we're going to identify, where is there opportunities to improve that information? Whereabouts is some of that information missing, so that you can actually get better visibility into your completeness of information. But lots of benefits, and happy to kind of bring it offline there with you, Murray, too.
Okay, so we've got a question from Nick Gordon. Does it have to be reality capture data, or can it also incorporate 3D CAD models? So great question, Nick. Yes, so definitely, we can incorporate all those 3D CAD models. And actually, a lot of the work we've done to date has been connecting all the information to 3D CAD models, especially for newer facilities. Anything built since 2010, you typically have a 3D CAD model that is relatively well maintained as built. There's already those tags within the object, so we're not reinventing the wheel. We can take your existing CAD model, take the tags that are within the model, and then connect those with your enterprise asset management systems, and then really just use scans to supplement where there might have been a lot of management of change, or brownfield projects that have changed the current environment. So I would say, for new facilities, new builds, you want to ensure that your engineering firm is providing you with a rich 3D model with all of the tags within it, so that it can actually connect to all of your enterprise asset information management systems throughout that entire life cycle. I think what's really key here, and what we've been working on, is how do we create that same capability for older facilities that don't have 3D models, where that burden seems to be very high in terms of how do we get to that integrated digital twin, and how do we propose a fit for purpose, low cost solution to support those kinds of assets.
I don't know if we've got time for one more. I think we're close to the 45-minute mark, but just one question out there around, maybe just elaborate a little bit more on the AI ML data extraction strategy. So yeah, just to kind of build on that a little bit, is part of our tool set from a ReVisionz perspective that we kind of bring to the table, is to avoid that manual extraction process, be it offshore or onshore type approach, to actually going through and scraping information. We've used a kind of a machine learning, Azure solution with some machine learning rules engines behind the scenes to be able to extract information from data sources, be it metadata from title blocks and drawings, tag information from title blocks, drawings, and the face of the drawings. But a lot of the time, the typical OCR engines actually work on well-structured data, good PDFs, or things that you can actually, visually actually see. The issue with brownfield information is a lot of that stuff may be photocopied, scanned, but the quality of that information is a lot less. So our tool provides a much better and more robust way to be able to extrapolate poor quality information. And there's always going to be a little bit of that just even the human eye can't read. But this tool is more equipped to look at that poor asset and poor information that you have, especially in Brownfield. So hopefully that helped a little bit. So Alex, maybe I'll let you close it up there.
Perfect. Thanks, Kelly. So yeah, I know, yeah, we're on the 45-minute mark. So thank you everyone for joining today. I know we still have a few questions. We've got 6 questions and with more coming in still in the tab. And I'm sure we could answer them all day, but yeah, well, make sure to follow up with every remaining question on a individual basis. If you have any further questions, for Kelly and I, or would like to learn more, I'll just leave our contact information on this slide, and you can feel free to contact either of us, at any point in time, and we'd be, happy to continue the conversation. So, thank you again, everyone. Thanks for dedicating some time today on your lunch hour, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.